Hi, everyone, and welcome to our podcast, Smart Man, Smarter Woman, a podcast for entrepreneurs by entrepreneurs. And thank you very much for joining us today. I am Steve Lotes.
And I am Juliet Aurora.
And we are your co-hosts. But before I introduce today's special guest, let's hear from my wonderful co-host, that smarter woman herself, Juliet. She does love it when I say that. How are you doing today, Juliet? It always brings a big smile to her face. You can't see that, but I can.
I am excellent, thank you. And I'm actually going to borrow a phrase from you. Not that I ever borrow phrases from you, which would be that if I were any better, I couldn't stand it. So no, everything's going really well. We had a big project that was due for our business. The deadline for it was tomorrow, and our rockstar team came in ahead of schedule, a whole day ahead of schedule, even hitting some glitches yesterday where I was worried we weren't going to make the deadline. So I'm feeling great about everything right now.
Awesome. So they must have had a great leader then if they're a rockstar team. Is there any truth to that?
I have no idea.
You're not usually without words, but okay, let's move on. The people didn't.
Let's move on.
They didn't tune in to hear us anyway. So today we have a great show for you. We have a special guest all the way from down under in Melbourne, Luke Fuller. So let's bring Luke into the show and welcome and thank you very much for joining us today, Luke.
Hi, Steve. Hi, Juliet. Thank you for having me at this early hour in Melbourne.
Absolutely. And thank you for being awake and joining us. That is awesome. Really looking forward to our conversation today. We get to speak with a global entrepreneur, and we don't get an opportunity to speak with many of those. He's built a very successful business here for himself in Canada, which is how we first met him. But now he's also building a business in Australia. And for you geography wizards out there, you know that those two places are not exactly close neighbors. So I'm sure there's been some interesting challenges in doing that, which we'll get into. But maybe in the first few minutes, Luke, if you wouldn't mind, if you could share a little bit about your own entrepreneurial journey, what you do, who you help, and how did you get to where you are now?
Great. Yeah, thanks, Steve. Well, thanks for the introduction. I'm a physiotherapist and osteopath. I travel the world with the men's ATP professional tennis tour. So that's part of what I do. But also we've got some clinics that help everyday people, sports clinics. As you mentioned, located in Toronto, in Midtown. We've got another branch in Oakville and now a new branch in Malvern, which is a suburb of Melbourne in Australia. So I've always been someone that's really enjoyed sport, fitness, and been fascinated by the human body. So I know what it's like when you get an injury or something with your health stops you doing something that you love. So that's how I first got into it. I always wanted to be in that space. And yeah, after a long student career, I was lucky enough to start applying and the skills and getting some experience and more I found out, how much I love to help people and I guess restore their freedom to do what they want when they want, because your health is so important. And if you don't have that, whether your business or family or any other aspect of your life really struggles. So essentially that's what we do. Our sort of two main, I guess, taglines at A Sports Clinic are inspiring high performance. We try and help people be better than what they are today, whether that's recovering from an injury or, performing at their best to win a grand slam or getting out of pain, and, empowering the freedom to actually do what they would love to do, whether that's a different activity, gardening, going for a run, turning up to work, whatever that is. So essentially we help people with their health and wellness, and that's what we've endeavored to do in our clinics.
Awesome.
And have you always wanted to be an entrepreneur? Have you always wanted to own your own series of clinics?
I think so. It's really come to the fore in the last couple of years, mainly due to a frustration. So, I did a lot of training and traveled a lot. And then once I was traveling with the tennis tour, I had a really strong following of clients. And one of the frustrations for me was that when I would go away, so if I was in Toronto and I'd fly to Wimbledon or, back to Australia for the Australian Open, I'd be gone for, 3 or 4 weeks. And communication's obviously really important. So I'd let my clients know in advance and, get them in as much as I could or they needed before I went. But one of my frustrations was that when I would leave, some of them wouldn't see anyone. So, I'd recommend them to people and they'd come back and they'd say, well, I was sort of waiting to see you. So, I was taking emails and calls from Australia or wherever I was on whatever time zone. And it really didn't sit well with me. So I wanted to get a team that could help people and that they would be, a step ahead, not a step behind when I got back. So that was how we sort of started. And with Chris, my business partner, we'd worked, he's a great massage therapist, and we'd worked together for a long time. And we just found that when we referred people out, they weren't getting the same care and they weren't getting the same follow-up and they weren't getting the same results. So we sort of, it was born really about that frustration that we wanted to build a team that really cared for people, that wanted to help them. It was a relationship more than just a, tick the box sort of transaction. And we just found people were, coming to us and they'd seen people 3 times a week for, months and got nowhere. So I'd say it was born mainly out of that sort of frustration. But then once we sort of got started more and more, we did some, personality tests, and we also did some different cultural things and learnt about each other with our team. And more it sort of came to me that, this was really something that I enjoyed and really had a lot of energy to do. So that's how the clinic started.
Excellent. And we do hear that often with the entrepreneurs that we interview, that they start their business either because they're trying to fill a gap, something that they see that they can't get that service, or out of frustration that, they're just not happy with what's out there or the way that other people are delivering the service, and so start the business. So it's interesting that is also the reason that you have.
That's great. One of the things you said there, Luke, I'd like to touch on a little, is you talked very, very briefly about culture and your team. And I know one of the things when we're talking to other entrepreneurs, you meet people who really believe culture is an important part of their business and building a team. But then you meet others where, that, oh, no, that culture thing, that's too touchy-feely, that, you don't need that. Just come in, do your job, and go home. That's what I pay you to do, right? And you hear that. In your experience, how important do you think culture is to the growth of a successful business?
I think it's hugely important, Steve, and it's something that I've done, a lot of talking with different people, entrepreneurs, reading, and I've also been lucky enough to be in some sporting teams and sort of high performance cultures myself to learn from. But I think it's incredibly important. Some of my experiences, work with the Cleveland Clinic, and one of my mentors is Mike Kessel. I took a number of trips to Cleveland with him and just talking to the different health providers. It was phenomenal how, to a person, they were so grateful to work there. Different stories we hear from great organisations. It's really all about the team and how we can help each other. So, we're huge on the culture. We're huge on the client experience. So the experience the person gets when they come in, all our clinics are sort of filled with natural light. They're inviting spaces. We want our team and our clients to feel great when they're there. And the culture of, setting a good example, following through with what you say you will, and delivering is so important. And we do a lot of training with our team on that it is the small things that make the big difference, because if you say that you'll send someone some exercises and you don't follow through with that, well, that's a break of trust right there. And so it's little things like that we need to uphold. So with our team, we sort of do a lot of training on the soft skills. People obviously come to us in pain and sometimes not in their best state. And, we do a lot of training on the soft skills, how we talk to people, what sort of hope we give them. We try and be really honest and transparent so they know what's ahead of them, but also encouraging and put the most, I guess, realistic but positive spin on what we can help them achieve, to sort of show them where they can get to, because ultimately we're a team. We need the person's buy-in as well. If it needs exercises or some sort of activity modification or whatever it needs, we need buy-in from them. So it's really important, I think, the culture, and it I think it starts at the top. I try and lead by example and always set a good example for our team. We try and elevate other people that we identify as leaders, and I think really that's part of our job, to grow more leaders that can actually take out your message of health and wellness and in a high performing team to your clients and everyone else that they come in contact with. So it's more than one person, and I think it's a conversation that we could talk about all day, because the culture is huge. One of the books that I read that had a huge impact on me early on was Legacy by I think it's James Kerr, that talked about the All Blacks and how they've been so successful for so long, and any person will do anything for the team. So it doesn't matter if you're the captain or the coach or whatever, the expectations are the same. And I think a lot of that, we've tried to embrace. We haven't, got perfect. We've had a lot of challenges along the way. We've had some turnover and things like that, which are normal for any business. But, we're trying to get better every day. And I would say the culture is really at the center of that.
Excellent.
And have you found, so as Steve mentioned earlier on in the episode, you started your business in Canada and have now moved to Australia, and you're opening clinics in Australia. So with you being so far away, and with the last 7 months of being unable to travel and come back to Canada to visit the businesses, how has that impacted, or what has that changed, or do you feel it's changed anything with the culture of your organization and amongst your team members?
Well, I think we went through a really tough period where we weren't able to open, and so that was challenging. But I think one thing that has been apparent through all this, we've had weekly meetings and stayed in close contact. But, we have got a great team on the ground there. They're doing a great job, and they've come through this probably with more skills and more, they've overcome more challenges. So I think, they're a stronger team, and, they're doing a great job. And, we're not back to the levels that we were pre-COVID, but, we're moving in the right direction. And yeah, I think so grateful for our team there, because as you say, it presents a lot of challenges from when do you talk to people that, they're awake when I'm sleeping usually, but, the time, you couldn't be a more challenging time zone, but we've made time to connect every week and often multiple times a week. We've had a lot happening here as well with the new clinic, and, we've basically built out and fitted out a new clinic, and, we're hiring, and so there's lots of moving parts here. So yeah, they've adapted well. I'm excited about what the future sort of holds. I guess there's been some real challenges, there's no doubt, the last few months, and we're still not through them. But the really great thing, and something we're really grateful for, is that our clients are coming back, and we're more focused than ever than helping them. We know this is a short time, and as I like to think when I'm flying, it's sort of turbulence. It's a bit bumpy and you can have a few little butterflies, but there's blue skies out the other side. And, I think a lot of my travel that I've done has really been helpful for this because, just dealing with different things that don't go as planned. You can turn up and hotel's not booked, or it's booked out, or, the flight connection doesn't make it and you have to sleep in a hotel airport for 2 hours and then still get to the meeting on another flight. So yeah, that adaptability, I've been really proud of our team, and it's a small team but growing, and yeah, we're really committed to coming through this in flying colours. So I guess to answer your question, Julia, I'm really grateful, and it's sort of, if anything, shown me that with a good team you can be anywhere with the right people that understand the company and their own values and can drive the impact that we can have on our clients. So it's been scary at times, I won't lie, and there's been a lot of work, but we're coming out now, and we're optimistic about things moving forward. We're still here, which is a good point.
Definitely, because there's a lot of businesses that have had to shift to a remote setting of some sort over the last 7 months. And so, your organization is definitely remote with you on the other side of the world, and being able to still maintain that business and have it move forward says a lot about, the structure that you've got in place, that you're able to run it from the other side of the world, or even be able to be hands off, because so many business owners try and accomplish that where they want the business to run without them. But it has been a test of whether or not your processes are in place to be able to do that. So kudos to you, because it's a difficult thing to achieve.
We will continue with our conversation right after this message from a friend of the show. AIS Solutions is an award-winning cloud accounting firm serving small businesses all across Canada. If you want to move your bookkeeping from the desktops of the dark ages to the cloud and get your financials wherever you are, whenever you want them, then contact AIS Solutions' team of trained professionals today at www.aissolutions.ca. And now, back to our conversation.
Yeah, thank you. Well, and it's really about the right people, and I think that was one of my, and still is one of my things that I'm working on, but definitely one of my flaws early on in my journey, where I was, so driven, and so everything sort of had to be done at such a high standard that, I've had to learn to really give the reins to other people and have that trust, and that's still a work in progress. But we sort of pivoted in the sense that we did some ACE virtual care, we did some Zoom, we I've been connecting with some clients back in Canada as well, so as well as here in person. So there's a lot of moving parts, but there's so much you can do, and I think just the new skills that you learn through this. And just when you think you're broken, you come out the other side. So it's a great learning experience. And I think for our team that to go through it and get through the other side, they're only going to be more galvanized by it.
Absolutely. Well, you talk about, you mentioned it's a work in progress. I guess the important lesson for all of us as entrepreneurs, it's pretty much always a work in progress, and I'm not sure it ever ends. It might be working on something a little different, but it's always a work in progress. So I always think that's part of the joy of being an entrepreneur, and most of the time I think it is a joy. So
yes, joy and frustration. I think both sides of the equation come from it always being a work in progress.
Yeah.
So I have a question which we wouldn't be able to ask of other guests. So I want to take advantage of this opportunity of having you here to ask this question. So can you share with our audience if there are any similarities, since you've been up close and personal with Wimbledon and Australian Open? Are there any similarities to, the high, can't even come up with the wording for this, for the big name events, so sporting events, versus running a small business? Are there similarities, or are they completely two different worlds that you live in?
In terms of the events, I think there's similarities. I guess I've worked at a lot of big events around the world. Even when I was studying, I worked at the Melbourne Grand Prix. So I think there's, a good organisation and the way things are run, is so important for everyone. I think there are similarities. If you don't get some of the basic things right, the bigger things don't happen. So from an organisation level, I think absolutely. I mean, preparation, making sure you're ready, and making sure you've thought of most things, I guess, in terms of, whether it's the sports person that's there, how it runs from their perspective, how it runs from a fan's perspective. It's probably no different in business. We think about how it runs from our client's perspective and their experience, but also from our team. And we're always looking at ways we can make things better for our team, whether that's with technology, to do their notes when, or whatever it is. So I think there's a lot of similarities in terms of the organisations. There's definitely a lot of similarities in terms of the top players and the top athletes. So, I guess we called it the Big Four for a long time, but, Roger, Rafa, Novak and Andy, I think seeing what they do and how they prepare and what they do when no one else is watching and repeatedly do consistently is the reason why that they are the best in the world. And yeah, I think there are similarities whether you look at it from an organisational perspective or an individual sports person, sort of high performance perspective. They're always trying to get better. They're never satisfied. They're doing the, what I call the one percenters that, you look at them and you think, well, they're small things, but when they're done over and over and over and over again, they become big things. So I think that's probably some of the similarities and the lessons that I've learned and really aspired to and tried to bring into our organisation, because, you can't plan for everything, but, preparation and being in a good state, and that comes with your health. And that's why we're so big on health and wellness, that if you're not physically fit, if you're not mentally fit, it's all encompassing. And with that, you can do so much more. So, yeah, I guess there are similarities, Juliet, and it doesn't matter if what sort of business you're running. I'm sure, the experience is everything, and that's when people will talk and refer, and, they'll remember how they felt or what result they got, how it helped them. And, our biggest referral source by far is word of mouth. And, we're so grateful for our clients that, actually have a great experience and then, refer a friend, because it ultimately gives us more opportunity to help more people.
Yeah, that's great. You made some great comparisons there. I hadn't even thought about. That was good. Just to move in a slightly different direction, if you met someone who is thinking about opening their own business, becoming an entrepreneur, what advice would you give them?
Firstly, it's not about the technical skills, that's for sure. I mean, that's important, and it's obviously important to have a qualification to do what we do and the knowledge and, some experience with the body. But really, it's all about the soft skills, and I think that's something that's so underappreciated. So I would definitely start with that. We do a lot of training with our team on that, how you relate to people, just listening to them. I mean, the amount of times that people come in and the answers there, they just haven't, and they've got the answers themselves, they just haven't been listened to. So it's simple things, but I would always start there, because the longer I do this, the less I think it's actually about our technical skills. And if you get a person to believe, and you believe that you can help them, there's so many ways to do that. There's so many ways to get, get them out of pain, or get them to, to a Grand Slam final, or get them to, get back into the garden, whatever they want to do. So it's really listening to what they want, and then, getting their trust and confidence that you're the person to help them. So I think that's something that more and more every day, Steve, becomes apparent to me, because 95 to 100% of practitioners, they're trained, they're intelligent people, but I still think the biggest thing is that they're soft skills. So that would be the first thing I start with.
Yeah, no, again, I think that's a great example. We can all learn technically, right, the skills of what we need to do, but why is one person so much better at it than someone else, whereas the technical skills may be, very similar. So there has to be some things that do separate them. As you said, I think you called them the 1%ers. And absolutely, it's certainly very obvious in sports, and certainly obvious in sports like tennis, right, where you're out there on your own. I mean, you may have a team behind you, coaches, managers, physiotherapists, but when you're out on the court, you're out there by yourself. So that's great.
I'm pretty sure that most entrepreneurs at some point or another, regardless of who they have behind them, have felt like they've been on their own as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. And, it just more and more highlights to us the importance of team, and in an individual sport, which, I've worked with many, of the best tennis players and golfers for that matter in the world, and they're both individual sports, but they've got a team behind them. And, that's the key thing, that, on the day, obviously they have to perform. They're amazing athletes, but there's a team behind them. And, really there's nothing in life that we don't have better results or even to share with a team. That the individual may win the US Open or whatever, but they're still sharing it with the team. And there's so many people to be thankful and grateful for that have sacrificed a lot to get them there. So, yeah, the key thing is the team. And that goes back to the culture again, and the collaboration of people working together in the best interests of their client, which is what we've been strong about. And it goes through every part of the organisation. The hiring, I mean, we've got a very rigorous work in progress hiring system where we use all the resumes are pretty much the same because they're all qualified, intelligent people with these degrees. We do use the culture index, which is a personality profile and just tells us how sort of proactive or detailed or patient a person is, which has been great. But more and more, as I do this more, the few things that come to the forefront, because anyone can learn anything at the end of the day, what we're looking for now is really three things. It's firstly a great attitude. It's secondly, gratitude, and it's thirdly a willingness to learn. And that's been something that's morphed about because, with a great attitude and a willingness to learn, it doesn't matter if you're the most junior practitioner. If you want to get better and you're willing to learn and, overcome some bumps in the road, you'll get better. So rather than having someone that's, stopped learning, comes into the interview and is just talking about themselves all day, how great they are, we're looking for people that want to be there and actually help people, because a lot of the time we find, like going back to what we said before, that the answer is very obvious when you listen to the person, and the person, I always say, knows their body better than anyone else, so they can give us a lot of information, and when we listen to them, the answer is there. So, I guess that ties into our earlier discussion about the culture, but it's just so embedded throughout any great organisation, I think, and it's something that we're trying to get better at each and every day. I mean, we've made hundreds of mistakes in the 4 or 5 years that we've been going, but hopefully we're getting better and making less of them and it's an evolution, as you say.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and hopefully they're new mistakes, right?
Exactly.
That's when you know you're making progress and learning, when it's not the same mistakes over and over. But anyway, that brings us to the part of the show where we ask you some questions, which is, we do with all of our guests, and we ask everyone the same questions. So if you're ready, Luke, I'd like to get started.
Absolutely.
All right. What one word best defines an entrepreneur?
Freedom.
Okay. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Emergency physician, mainly because I've worked in emergency in my earlier days, and I guess I like making decisions, and I guess the ability to make quick decisions that could save someone's life or not. So high pressure environment and quick decisions and action needed. So yeah, why not have a go at that?
Okay. What profession would you like never to attempt?
Never to attempt? I think that would be bookkeeping, because we've got a great team and we've delegated that out, and they're doing such a good job that, yeah, it saved a lot of frustration from me and time. So I'll leave that to the experts. Thank you.
Awesome.
I appreciate that. So full disclosure, Luke is a client of ours as well. So thank you very much for those kind words.
Yes, thank
you,
you,
Juliet.
What sound or noise do you love?
Waking up and hearing my kids playing downstairs.
Excellent. What book would you recommend every entrepreneur should read?
We talked about The Legacy before, but there's a book I'm reading. I haven't quite finished it yet, but I'm really enjoying it. Is the Who Not How by Dan Sullivan, and it's just out, and I'm really enjoying it, and I think all entrepreneurs should read it.
Awesome. When your own entrepreneurial journey is completed, what do you hope your legacy is?
That we just were able to help and inspire people to improve their health and well-being. That's the space we're in. That's probably the legacy we would like to leave. So yeah.
Okay, perfect. And for those in our audience who would like to contact you, what is the easiest way for them to do that, Luke?
Probably through our website, www.asportsclinic.com internationally, or .com.au for the Australians. Yeah, I'm always happy to connect with anyone, and I'd welcome any questions. I'll always get back to people. So if anyone wants to learn more about what we do, feel free to visit our website, Sports Clinic.
Perfect. And we will make sure that your website is in the show notes, so people will be able to, they don't need to remember it or make a note of it. They'll be able to find it in the show notes. Before we conclude our episode today, Luke, do you have any final thoughts you might like to share with our audience of entrepreneurs?
Basically, just to trust your instincts, and if there's something that you believe in, really go for it. Life is short, as we know and we've seen throughout this time. So, be the person that you want to be, and give it your all. And, invariably we're all going to come across some challenges and fail at different things, but it's just really keep going, I think. And by doing that, you overcome some obstacles, and you build more confidence in yourself and your team. And it's so true. I think you've just got to have a go. And that's one of our great, I guess, Australian sayings, is that, really have a go and see where it takes you. So that would probably be my advice.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. I think just have a go, covers just about everything in business and life.
Definitely.
What about you, Juliet? Do you have any final words for our audience before we close out the episode?
Actually, I do. I do have a couple. So one of the things that it came up in a conversation that I was having with some colleagues yesterday as well, where we were talking about, who an ideal client is for you, how to find the right clients, and how do you determine who you want to work with in your business. And one of the people talked about understanding what the values are of the people that you want to do business with. And if your values are aligned and you find the same things important, the relationship tends to be a better one and a longer lasting one. And spending the last 40 minutes with Luke and listening to him talk about the importance of culture and the importance of team, and even some of the ideas that he brought to the forefront, between the analogy with Wimbledon and high performance sports, reinforced for me that, because it was like conversations that you and I have had, Steve, about how important the culture is, and that as long as we have a good team behind us, there's not anything that we can't do. And it just, I guess, reinforced for me that when we choose to work with people that have those same values, that we both win. And so that was kind of my insight from the last hour as well.
Awesome. I think that's a great insight. And I think that it also ties in, I think, with something Luke said, where he said, life is too short. Why would you want to work with someone or a business that doesn't share the same values and the same outlook? We should, as much as possible, try to enjoy working together, right? We spend a lot of time doing it. So I think that's really important. That brings us to this episode's words of wisdom. And I love this quote, and I could not find for the life of me who said it. So if someone out there knows who did say this, please shoot me an email, because I do like to give credit where credit is due. And I think this is a great quote, but Mr. and Mrs. Google would not help me with who did this. So I'm just going to share the quote. Don't be upset by the results you didn't get by the work you didn't do.
Very true.
So
sounds like a sports quote.
Well,
so it's probably
the other thing I was thinking of too, that now we have a client in Melbourne, and we never did before, and we've talked about going to the Australian Grand Prix. Like, is that a business expense? Because we have a client and we could visit the client's place of business, and would that work, Juliet? Or
I'm not even going to touch that, because you never know if CRA is listening to us, to our podcast. I'm not even going to touch that one. So no, it would not be a business expense. It was
just an innocent question from someone who doesn't know better. That's all that was.
You're most welcome. That's the most important thing. So you're most welcome, and it'll be warmer here in March, and you could do the Australian Open in January, and then the Grand Prix in early March. It'd be really nice. But and I'm sure we can find some work here for you, Steve, as well. So, but yeah, thanks very much, and really grateful for the opportunity to come on. And it takes just finding good people, and the amount of heartache and hours and time and that we had with our bookkeepers before we come across you. We're really so grateful for you and your team, and thankful for Dan, who I think you both know and worked with, our action coach, for recommending. So yeah, it's good to find like-minded people that have sort of the similar values, as you say, Juliet, and really set high standards in what they do.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you for the kind words again. And thank you, Juliet. Thank you, Luke. But most importantly, thank you to you, our audience, for tuning in and giving us a listen. We sincerely hope you found some value here today, and we would love it if you would subscribe. We're in all the normal places: iTunes, Spotify, Google, or you can go to the website, smartmansmarterwoman.com. So thank you. Until next time, take good care of yourself and those that you love. Bye for now.